Hi everyone, this is Anna of Crafty Anna Studio. I'm so grateful that you're here. I have a fun project for you today. I'm going to show you how to create this circular trifold window card. There are a lot of wonderful possibilities with this design, and I'm hoping this will spark your creativity. Before I begin creating the trifold design, I'm going to work on the background that will show through the window. For the background, I will be using this stamp set from Hero Arts called Beach Heroscapes. This stamp set is a large one and has so many great sentiments in a scripty font, as well as several layering images including this beach scene. I took a piece of white cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and placed it on the bottom corner of my Misty. I took the largest of the layering beach stamps and positioned it at the upper edge of the paper. I closed the door of the Misty to pick up the stamp. For this layer, I will be using one of the Hero Arts Ombre ink pads. This one is the mint to emerald green. Just by looking at the ink pad, you can see that there are differences in the colors. I took the ink pad and dabbed it onto the stamp using a side-to-side up and down motion. I call this the Ombre ink pad cha-cha. This cha-cha-cha motion helps in making sure that there are no harsh lines between the colors. Then I took the other layering stamp and aligned the top flat part of the stamp to the top part of the stamp image. This layering stamp set is so easy to align and very forgiving. I took another Hero Arts Ombre ink pad called Pool to Navy. This ink pad goes from a light blue to a darker, almost midnight blue. I dabbed the ink once again on the stamp in the same cha-cha-cha motion. I set this panel aside while I worked on my card base. Here are the dies that I used to create the frames for my circular trifold card. The 4-inch diameter and the 3 3/4 inch diameter one from the Hero Arts Infinity Nesting die set. I tried my best to make sure they were both evenly spaced on all sides. Once I was happy with the placement, I used washi tape to tape them both down together. Then I took it to my die cutting machine to cut it out. I slowly peeled off the frame from the die, making sure to keep the dies still attached to each other, because I will use the same dies to create the front panel of the trifold window card. To create the window part of my trifold card base, I took the dies that were still attached and placed it on the top of a side-folded cardstock panel. I offset it a little on the left side and secured it with washi tape. Then I opened the panel and positioned the top cutting plate of my die cutting machine right at the crease line. And because of the placement of my cutting plate, it only die cut the area on the right side of the creased line, leaving the other half of the panel uncut. In order to match the circle of the frame to the back panel, I placed the positive piece of the inner circle back to its original position. Then I opened up the card base. While holding the positive piece in place, I took the bigger of the two dies and positioned it onto the card panel using the positive piece as a guide. I made sure it was evenly placed on all sides before securing it with washi tape. I placed the cutting plate once again on the creased line and took it to my die cutting machine. After die cutting it, I carefully removed the washi tape and the die. Then I took my small scissors and cut off the area which was still attached to the panel. To create the other side of the trifold design, I took the panel that I had already made and matched it on the creased side of another side-folded card. Then I placed the die back on top in the exact same position. I held the die firmly in place while I secured it at the very edge with washi tape. Then I carefully removed the top circular panel. That way, I know when I die cut it, it will match perfectly with the window panel. Once again, I used my small scissors to cut off the area still attached to the card. Now before I attach the two panels together, I will trim off a little bit on one side where it meets the fold. This way, it won't get in the way when you open and close the trifold card. Then I will do the same on the other side. I took the panel, the one without the window, and added a generous amount of glue to the back. Then I attached it to the other side of the panel with the window, making sure to align it properly. The trifold panel is done. Now I will add the beach scene to the inside. I took the bigger of the two nesting dies and placed it on the stamped image. I secured it with tape and then I brought it to my die cutting machine. I trimmed off one side for a better fit before adhering it. I added liquid glue to the back and secured it to the panel. For the window part of the trifold design, I die cut a piece of acetate using the biggest of the two dies. Then I also cut two circular frames from cardstock. These extra pieces of frame will help and create some stability to the window. You could also make this into a see-through shaker card. All you need to do is add several layers of cardstock between the two acetate windows. The thickness of the layers would depend on the size of your shaker bits. Here I am just showing you the simplest way I know to make a window. I finished adhering one of the frames, then I will adhere the acetate piece, and then on top of that I will adhere another cardstock frame. The wonderful thing about this type of trifold design is that you could experiment using different shapes, like a hexagon or a square. I will be using embossing powder for the sand in this beach scene. I took some cornstarch powder, which I keep in a little plastic container. I sprinkled it on the panel and then I used a dry brush to distribute it. Then I took an embossing pen, and with this pen, I used it to outline the shoreline of the beach. Then I took an embossing ink pad and used the corners of the pad to add more of the sticky ink. I will be using an embossing powder from Hero Arts called Sand. This embossing powder is one of my favorites. It's so perfect for beach or ocean scenes, which I love to create. I sprinkled the embossing powder generously on the panel, gave it a tap to remove the excess. I took a paintbrush and gently brushed off the powder that overlapped into the stamped image. Then I used my heat tool to heat the powder until it was good and melted. Off camera, I had used the same ink colors to stamp the image again at the top and at the bottom to cover the white areas. To create the wood grain frame, I used this Hero Arts decorative wood grain cardstock. I'm not sure if you can see the design, but it has an embossed wood grain texture to it. Then I used the same set of dies to die cut it out. With a blending brush, I took some sandstone ink, which is a light brown ink, and ink blended the wood grain frame. I made sure to hold the frame firmly as I worked on it. To further define the wood grain texture, I took a darker color, cocoa, and this time I used a finger dauber to blend it in. To add more texture, I purposely made the ink blending uneven, lighter in some areas, darker in others. The images I'm using for my card is from the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero February 2021 kit. Whenever I receive a new kit, the first thing I do is stamp all the images multiple times. Die cut them out and keep them in a little Ziploc bag. This way, I can pull them out and color them whenever I have the need to add them to a project. This kit had an image of a little hut, which I thought would be perfect to add to the beach scene on the inside. And for the outside, I chose the image of a boy and his ukulele, a coconut tree, and some flowers. I will assemble and glue them off camera. If you like this tutorial, I have another fun one linked above. It's how I create a laminated bookmark scene. Here is the finished card. I'm actually okay with the back part of the images showing through. I stamped the sentiment, "You are the best," from the same stamp set. A fun play on words that really fit the scene. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you were inspired. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed my video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Till next time, bye!